Now, before we dive in today and introduce you to our speaker and really kick off today's event, I just want to go real quick into some housekeeping items. These will be especially important if maybe you haven't joined us for a virtual event before, in which case, hi, welcome. We're so happy to meet you. Or maybe you just haven't been on an event with us in a while, in which case we are very happy to see you back with us. Now, big thing to know about these events is that they are all about you. They're about our audience members and making sure that you get the, you get the value that you came to from these events. So you are welcome to participate if you would like to. You can do it in a couple different ways. You are always encouraged to turn your cameras on if you'd like, share your smiling, maskless faces with us safely. But truly, y'all, no worries. You do not need to be Instagram perfect. I think I'm rocking, 3 days of dry shampoo for so far. We do not care if you are coming to us from a corner office or your living room couch. You can be in your bathrobe or a ball gown. Doesn't matter. We want to meet you where you are. So as you are joining, please feel free to participate, but just know there is no pressure there, y'all, truly. If you don't want to participate with cameras, you don't have to. If you've got privacy concerns, completely understandable. As long as you don't come off mute on today's event, you will not show up on the live stream or the recording for today's session. You can always chime in as well into the group chat in Zoom there. So I am going to do a call out here in case anybody wants to share with us. Let us know where you're joining us from. I am coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. It's land that was indigenously cared for by the Fox and Kickapoo Nation in my area. So if you are, if you know where you are coming from, whose land you're on, let us know. We would love to hear that from you. I'm always very excited to see how far our global audience spreads. Now, while you are being active in that chat and introducing yourselves or interacting with your fellow attendees, as always, just make sure that we are leading from a place of kindness and respect. Now, Bowling Green, Ohio, Margaret, you're close to me. I'm in Toledo, not too far from y'all. Colorado, Austin, Texas, Brazil. Thanks, Nicole. Super, super excited to see how far our audience is spreading today. All right, now, as you're in that chat, you can interact with each other, ask each other questions, whatever, but we also want to learn from you today. So if you have questions for Min and you want to ask them, please feel free, ask early, ask often. That is going to be the best way for you to get your questions answered today. Now, if you have any questions that you want me to raise so that you can be kept anonymous, no worries. Just DM any question or comment you have to me, Meg Alexander. You'll find my name in the dropdown in your Zoom chat feature. Now, last couple of things I want to say. I did mention that we are live streaming as well as recording today's session. What that means for you is you don't have to take notes. You get to sit back, enjoy the conversation, and not have to worry if you missed a reference or if you weren't able to grab that link that someone shared. We will be sending out recordings for all of this to everybody who registered. You'll get an email in about 1 to 2 business days. So I would say probably you'll get it Monday next week. And it'll have a link to where you can rewatch this recording on our website when it's posted there. Now, let's say that Min tells us something today that is so unbelievably amazing, mind-blowing. You cannot wait to share it with a friend or a coworker or a relative. You don't have to wait 1 to 2 business days to do that. You can always head over to our YouTube channel. I'll share links for all of this in our chat in just a little bit here, but you can head over to the YouTube channel. The recording is posted there usually within about 5 to 15 minutes at the end of the live stream. And you can check out a huge segment of our archive chats on that page as well. Now, I also really encourage you to check out our website in addition to the YouTube channel, just because our website is where all of our archives are. Everything from the first time Lauren Haggerty sat in front of a camera for a lunch and learn up through today, all of it is there. You can search it, you can watch videos, you can share them to your friends, all for free. Now, the last thing that I want to highlight for y'all about this is Power to Fly has a mission. I mean, obviously we have a lot of missions. We want to see a lot of things improve in the workforce. And I think that if y'all are here today to listen to us and to talk to people from great companies like Min, you probably also have a lot of the same goals. You want to see things like pay equity in the workplace. You want to see gender parity, true representation, true inclusion and belonging in these places where we spend so much of our lives. If that is something you also are passionate about, we want to invite you to help us in this mission. We think that one of the quickest ways we're going to see, or the most intense way that we are going to see real changes happen, is by getting resources into the hands of as many people as possible. Share things and share information about, how to negotiate your pay offers, how to figure out if a company is worth, if their culture is going to be, adaptable and accepting of you. There's a lot of stuff here. And so we want to do what we can to get these all of these resources completely for free in the hands of as many people as possible. If you would like to help with that, we would love to. We'd love to have that assistance. Please feel free to take photos or video as we go. You are more than encouraged to share out to your social networks that you are learning with Power to Fly. Anything we can do to get these resources in the hands of as many people as possible, that's what we want to do. So feel free to tag us. You can tag us at Power to Fly. We are on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I believe we have a TikTok account, but we're not super active. So if you got ideas, please feel free to shout us out on TikTok. But you can always share out there. We would love to retweet, repost, reshare anything that y'all put out there. So thank you so much for helping in that area if you would like. All right, now, last thing before we dive into questions, y'all have to meet our guest today. So Min is joining us. He is a core technology associate with Comcast and NBC Universal. Now, Min graduated from college in 2018 with a bachelor's degree in political economics. And then he had a concentration in international trade. Now, Min then worked in music and comedy, touring out of a talent agency in LA. I cannot wait to hear a little bit more about that. Once COVID hit, Min pivoted to software engineering, and he has been loving it ever since. Min is excited about how he navigated this career pivot and the lessons he learned along the way. So I am very excited to hear a little bit more of this story. Min, before we dive directly into questions, is there anything else you'd like our audience to know about you today?
Honestly, that's a great introduction. So I don't think I have too much more to add. Yeah.
Thanks. All I did was read on a screen. So, you can do it
Thank
too.
you. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so we can highlight our fabulous speaker. As we dive into questions, like I said earlier, please feel free, y'all. If you have a question that you want to dive in on, let us know. If you asked a question during registration and you're not sure if we're going to have time to get to it, ask the question in the chat. If we are going over one of your questions and maybe we're not coming at it from the right angle, or maybe there's some context that you think we should have along with it, please feel free to share. You really have the power to drive today's conversation. So let's do what we can to make sure that y'all get the most out of today's event. All right, Min, let's get started here. Can you talk to us a little bit more about your experience pivoting into coding? I think a lot of people probably are stuck, at least a lot of us are stuck at the point of like, well, I need to do something else, but I don't know what. So when you were looking at pivoting, is there a reason that coding caught your eye?
Yeah. So I think it all began in college where, I went to UC Berkeley, which was a very computer science focused school, being in the Bay Area, close to Silicon Valley, and people knowing, the kind of lifestyle and salaries that you could get after college. So that's where I first encountered coding. I took a intro to coding class that didn't even use like a language. It used blocks. So it was like a for loop would like look like this, and it would like play over and over, or like an if block would look like that. So it was kind of like Legos. But so that's where I got that. And then after college, a lot of my friends did go into tech, and I saw that they were doing well and they were enjoying the work that they had, and they had, maybe more amenities than I did when I was exploring the entertainment field. So once COVID hit and that, impacted the live space so much, which was what I was working in at that time, I figured it was at least worth a try to see, how coding would work out as a career. So from just, from getting the experience and having a little bit of background in it, and then also seeing the kind of lifestyle that my friends had, definitely pulled me along the line there.
I like that. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense to hear you say that, because I feel like I was also in the same place for a while where like I was going to law school. I had like bartending and waitressing jobs and stuff. And a bunch of my friends were like in title positions, right? Like they had a salary, a literal salary. And so, it was one of those things where I remember taking a look around and being like, oh, you actually like that. Oh, I didn't realize that was okay. Yeah. I never once thought about insurance ever before, because who does? No one does.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really great that you had that exposure to kind of to see like, oh yeah, well, maybe this could be an option that I could explore that would not make me miserable. So yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about once you made that choice, you were like, okay, I'm going to pivot into coding. Let's talk about some of this, like the strategy employed there. When you were trying to figure out what your next move was going to be, where did you start?
Yeah, well, it took some time, I think, because once COVID hit and, we're working from home and the live space closed. There was no, comedy shows, no music shows going on. I was furloughed, so I had some time to think. And then once I decided that, like, I think I want to try it for sure, I wanted to make sure that I could go into this project, which is what I kind of considered it, fully. Like, I can fully commit. I can not have any regrets, and make sure, like, I can see as much as I could or expect as much as I could, and try to make it as easy as possible. Try to take out all the pains with it, or at least expect some of the pains. So I took a couple months after being furloughed just to, like, relax and collect myself, because I was pretty burnt from the last job, and also I wasn't sure what I needed to get prepared anyways. So I took like a couple months and just did some self improvement training, read a bunch of books, meditated, that kind of cheesy stuff. And then after that, I went into researching boot camps, or also different avenues that I could go and try this coding. And it seemed like boot camps were the best, because for me, it automatically connects you to, like, a group of people who are coding, right? And that's your first group of software engineers that you know. And I thought that was really useful. So I decided to do that instead of just doing a project and then cold applying in the beginning. And then once, I did all of my due diligence and looked at, I like to think, like, every boot camp that was out there, and try to see what really worked, because also it was, like, very, it's not cheap. It's very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to make sure, like, I was getting the right, return on investment, if you will, and at least, setting myself up for a position to succeed. So once I did that, I landed on GA, and then from there, I just with the preparation before, taking that break, I felt very well rested, and going into that, I also prepped a little bit from the Berkeley computer science classes that I took before, because all that stuff, I think, is open source. So I just read over that and brushed up on that, and then went on into that. So yeah, I think the preparation part of my transition was the part that I put the most effort into and the most time into as well.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Like you said, these choices are hard enough to make outside of the fact that there's dollar figures attached to everything, right? Like, even if you are able to find the thing that you want to do the most, not everybody is resourced enough to be able to pursue it. So yeah, I mean, having that, trying to take a very strategic and kind of, I don't want to say cold, but a little, kind of a distant, like I'm not Englishing well today, which is bad because it's the only language I speak, but, like, it's hard, right? It's hard to make these decisions that have large life implications without, even before you start talking about the money involved. And I think that's something that's really, we hear a lot from people. It's really common is, you don't want to throw good money after bad. And there's so much that you can learn alone, through individual study on the internet, which is great. But you're absolutely right. Having that community, and knowing, like, not only are these also people that are at the same stage of starting the same thing that you are, but they're also going through it with the same instructional pace. So, you know what I mean? Yeah, so it is somebody definitely that you can look at to and be like, okay, did you understand that? Because I didn't understand that at all. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree.
All right. So, okay, let's move forward a little bit into what you're doing now. Obviously, most companies, like most people, I don't think really have a typical work day. But for you, what does your schedule tend to look like in your role in software engineering?
Yeah, so I'm in a little bit in an interesting position because I'm part of a rotational program right now. So I'm right now in my third rotation in my third new software engineering team. So I've had, like, different looks every time, especially now that, like, people are coming back into the office. It's all looking different, but generally, you wake up and then you do stand up, and then you talk to your team members about any blockers, or if they have any blockers or anything that you can help with, or if it's planning, what tickets you're going to pick up or whatever. But if, say, you're in the middle of a sprint and you already have some tickets, just update people on your progress. And then depending on how, like, if you're working with someone or alone on the ticket, sometimes I just have days where I just code the rest of the day out, or if I need help, I'll Slack a coworker. But most often than not, it's just I just do the work the rest of the day. Writing tests or just writing the code or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, given your background, obviously, you're comfortable in front of a crowd, you're comfortable talking to people. Communication is obviously something that is something in your life. Do you think that any one of those soft skills in particular has helped you to succeed in coding?
Yeah, I definitely think communication has helped the most because I think it's really important to tell people what you need in tech. People always say like, you can stack me if you have any questions. And then like before, maybe in college, I just wouldn't. But like then I would just get confused, and then later down the line just like fail the assignment. So like telling people what you need and where you're at is really, really powerful. Like making sure you come on with like no ego and not being shy to look maybe like less, but if you have a question, like you already don't know, so you only have to learn there. But communicating what you need, where you're at, what you expect as well. Like coming into these rotations, like we've had meetings about goals and then what I'm hoping to get out of the rotation and and I'm asking them also what they are hoping to get out of the rotation from me as well. So setting those expectations so that no one is surprised and everyone's on the same page, I think has been really, really helpful overall.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, that is something that we're hearing more and more is, that ability, the ability to communicate is huge. And you touched on two different places there. Like earlier, you talked about meditating. So it was the idea of being able to listen to yourself. Yeah. And then, yeah, as we're talking about dealing with other people, like nobody works in a silo, right? Nobody is an island, their own lone wolf. They only do their own things. And so I think that's a really good example of the fact that like you not only have to be good at communicating outward with others, but also good at like your own internal communication. What's going on with me? What do I need? What can I provide for my team or whatever?
Yeah.
I really like that.
Just to add on to that, yeah, I think it's really important to like listen to yourself as well, because it's really hard to ask questions when you don't know what you want. So if you can like kind of figure that out for yourself first, it's like so helpful. For the person that wants to also help you and like answer your questions. So
yeah,
definitely goes both ways.
Amanda is actually chiming in the chat here asking, can you tell us about the factors that led you to select GA over other boot camps?
Yeah, I just went on Google and then like searched everything I could. I saw that there were some reports of like success rates from different boot camps. Took that and then looked at that, and then also looked at pricing, and then looked at the timeline of the boot camps as well. I kind of wanted to just get in there and do it as fast as I could, so I chose a little bit of a shorter one, like a 3-month one. I know there are like longer ones, but also I don't know if there are shorter ones actually, but kind of want to get in there and do it full time. That was also another thing. I want to do a full-time one instead of part-time because I was furloughed off anyway, so I had all this time. And yeah, I think price, success rate, and what fit my timeline is what all the factors I was looking at.
I like that. Well, and I think that's also something, like when you do think in terms of timeline, like we said earlier, like there's money attached to everything. So you want to get done as fast as you can so you can get out there and earn stuff. But yeah, I mean, it is also important to know, how do you learn best? Are you going to be trying to cram all of this material in, thinking like getting done faster will be better, when really, if you took the time for it, knowing yourself, then maybe, it would be better or worth it to, approach it in a different way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think if I did it part-time, I probably would have been a lot lazier and maybe not even finish some stuff. So I wanted to get in there and just commit myself fully. And yeah,
I feel you. I also probably would have done the same thing. If I don't go all in, then there's always that chance that I'm just going to be like, womp, womp, womp.
Yeah. Being all in or all out, I think was a good choice for me.
For sure. Okay, so you have this background in music and comedy. We've got a lot of other people who had asked kind of questions about pivoting in and transferable skills. This one person had written in saying that they have a background in customer service, and so they were trying to figure out some transferable skills that would be useful in tech. Are there any transferable skills that you have brought that might surprise people?
I think off the top of my head, also I haven't held, I only worked in like one customer service job, so I wouldn't say I know exactly what skills could be brought over, but one thing that kind of comes to the top of mind, which may be a surprise, I think is like patience. Like if you're working with someone who's a little frustrating, I think patience is really helpful because you'll be working on problems that are really frustrating as well. And, every other engineer that you might need help from is also busy. So they might take some time to reply or review your code or, just like be available, right? So being patient in that, and then being patient in actually doing the coding problems. Sometimes the problems grow and can get really annoying, or you have to deal with like company things like security. So being patient there and just like, just waiting and understanding the situation, I think was really helpful. And I think again, like here, communication would be another soft skill that I bring up. I think just being able to communicate your thoughts really clearly to people, like, is just more than useful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think. I've been in like a service related field for most of my career. So like the last 20 plus years. And truthfully, like, yeah, being able to communicate is valuable. Being able to listen is
Yeah.
huge. That's massive. And like, because everybody thinks they know how to listen, right? You just stop talking. It's not it. We all know it's not it. So yeah, I think that's, it is really important to kind of look not only at the job that you're doing, but like think about the verb. Think like get down right into like the very, very kind of piecemeal bits and like, okay, what is that? Can this verb at all relate to the new field I'm pursuing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I thought, listening is amazing. I think also in software engineering, I think everyone thinks they're listening, but everyone in engineering also thinks they have a better solution than you have. So like they're in their own head too. So yeah, definitely listening is really, really helpful. And also probably saves a lot of effort when maybe you get an assignment and then you end up not doing what they actually talked about. So
oh, heck yeah.
But listening would be really, really helpful.
Okay. All right. We do have a couple more questions from the chat. One person wants to know, what advice would you give to someone who's looking for their first job in tech?
Yeah. And I assume with like no background either, right?
I'm guessing no. I'm guessing a pivot into,
A pivot into, yeah. I think there are a lot of things to consider when it's your first job. I think one thing for me was that it was a little depressing because like I applied to like a lot of jobs before having even like an interview. So being persistent and having like that grit to keep at it and be determined, I think is really helpful. I think also talking to people would be really helpful if you can get like maybe a little one-on-one, a coffee chat off of anyone on LinkedIn that has been in the field. I think is really useful as well to get that point of view of someone already in the field, but as well to maybe get like a referral. I think most jobs these days are through referrals, but starting that networking and developing those connections is really useful as well when you're starting out. Especially if you're going to apply to that company, because then they can probably get some insights to maybe the process and what can better your chances. Because I think every company kind of has its own way of doing things in terms of hiring process.
Yeah. Okay. Now we talked a little bit about some of the reasons why you looked into coding or you looked into tech. When you were trying to decide, obviously like you weren't going to be able to work, in live events for however long. How did you pick the role within, I guess? A lot of people are talking about how there's just so many different options and it can seem kind of like death by 1,000 choices.
So I assume like choices like front end, back end, or security or cyber.
I think so. Yeah. If this was your question and you wanted it asked a different way, chime in the chat thread. But yeah, the way I read it was in terms of like, how did you pick this role within tech as opposed to any of the hundreds of others that there are?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I have a little bit of cop out there. Like I haven't decided yet. I'm part of a rotation program right now, just so I can dodge that question. I don't know what I want to do precisely. I wanted an opportunity coming out of the boot camp, I first wanted an opportunity to learn. So whatever it was, I wanted to make sure like it was a role that would be very nice, like a very good environment for learning. So I don't know. I got really lucky with this role because I get to go through three teams before having to commit full time to one team, and because of that, I've been able to like experiment in back end and front end, and now I'm trying to explore the AI ML space. So I haven't decided, but I will have to soon. And what I'm considering there is probably more like longevity and where the tech space is going, and what can also provide a continual environment for learning as well. Because I don't think I'm experts in any of them, but I think some spaces I would like to enjoy getting into it deeper than others. So
yeah. Well, and I like that approach to it, because you knowing that you don't know like what there like everything there is to know within the field can be reassuring, because like, oh great, there's more stuff to learn, but it can also be kind of scary of like, wait, what don't I know by now that I should know? And so I think that people do get really, I mean, I've done it too, get really kind of panicked of like, oh God, I should know what I'm doing by now, right? And it's like, no. By now doesn't exist. Okay. It's made up. All right. I'm 36. I'm on like career number 7 at this point. I don't know if this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. I love it. I'm gonna do it as long as I love it. But who knows? None of us do. So I think it's really important to kind of peel back the layers a little bit and be like, no. We're all making it up as we go along. Nobody comes out and is like, you know what I want to do? I want to be an actuary forever. No, they don't. We learn, we change things. New things happen within your industry, and all of a sudden, like, you thought you were going to be in mechanical engineering, and now computer engineering is where it's at. I like that idea of trying to pick with a longer range view on what might be exciting to you later on, where the market might go, as opposed to just trying to figure out like, well, I mean, do they have tacos at the taco bar or no? Like,
right,
I mean, don't get me wrong, you can pick companies based on that. I've done it before. It was fine. The tacos were great.
Yeah, I agree. I think I like to think of it more of as process than an end. This decision of like what you go into. I think each step is more of a process to refining what you really enjoy. And obviously we also change as people as time goes on. So, your preferences will change. So just picking the thing that might work for you at that time. Tacos, probably always great, but like, maybe one day you won't value that as much. So
exactly. I liked the taco bar until I found a place that had better benefits, and that was better than a taco bar. So, our goals change, our values change. So I think that is something really awesome to kind of know about yourself. So that way the outside change stuff doesn't maybe seem quite so scary.
Totally agree. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about transferable skills. We've talked a lot about your background and how you pivoted it in, but I want to talk about how you handled the interview phase when it came to showcasing your previous professional experience. How did you handle this in your job search?
Yeah. So you mean like leveraging skills from my last job into the next?
Yeah. Like trying to explain to somebody like, here's the skills I have, and don't worry, they'll apply to coding in these ways.
Yeah. I think for me, the part where I got to flex like those skills from my last job was only in like maybe the first or 1 or 2 phone calls that I had with the companies, maybe just like phone screens. But then after that, I don't really think my skills really showed that much, like the ability to like communicate. Well, I guess maybe the communicate again kind of comes up when you do like whiteboarding things. But I think the ability to talk well during the phone screens was the time where I could most display that like I might be a good team member, maybe because I can communicate, understand where the team's going, the team dynamic, because some teams are trying to cultivate a certain culture that they have. So maybe just trying to understand or show that like I don't know, it's kind of like a normal person.
I am a person. Please believe me that I'm a person. God, we've all been on those phone calls, right? Too, where you're just like, please like me enough to give me a job.
Yeah.
Oh, y'all, my heart goes out to every single one of you. All right. We're getting some great questions in here. Shanta had actually asked along the same lines. At what point did you choose what type of engineer or developer you wanted to be, or did you jump in and then select by your strengths? Okay, so this is a good question. Did you, when you were trying to find a boot camp, did you look at it in terms of like this is going to be the perfect one? Or did you jump in and think like, okay, well, now I've got to figure out what strengths I have that are going to allow me to succeed here?
Okay. Yeah. I think within the boot camp, not so much, but within like this rotational program I'm in, yeah, definitely. Like I found that like I've enjoyed working in the back end more just because when I'm working on the front end, I find myself like more irrationally mad at code. So I feel like that was a good sign. But I think strengths, I think, I don't know if I really thought about my strengths more than just like, I think people like to do what they're good at anyways. So I think you're kind of just attracted to those things. I don't think I thought like, oh, I'm really good at like naming variables, so I'm going to do something in the back end better than the front end or something like that. So I think just following your gut a little bit. And if you don't know, I think for me at least, just doing random things has really helped too. Like being on the team. Most teams have been really nice and accommodating if I just asked to work in a different space. Like if I was doing front end a little bit on my last rotation, and I was like, I don't think this is it. So I asked to be put on a back end project, and they put me on a Golang project for like a refactoring thing, and I found that really fun. So just asking if you don't feel very strongly about what you're doing right now, I think was really helpful.
I like that. And I think that's a really good way to put it, right? Like not feeling very strongly about the job you're doing now. I don't think I'm the only person that did that for a very long time. You get a job to get a job, and
Right.
that's what you do. But yeah, looking at it in terms of what would you enjoy doing is a whole different ball of wax. So I think that's a good distinction to make there.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some of the like kind of baseline skills, stuff that is nuts and bolts. You must have it to get an entry level software engineering job. What do you think are some of the super base skills? We've talked a lot about soft skills, but when it comes to hard skills, are there any that you've seen be like, this is something you got to have?
Yeah, I think overall it's just like how you approach the problem. I think, technically there are some things like, understanding variables and for loops and logic and, how to maybe write that logic. I mean, you could always like memorize bubble sort and all the sorting algorithm stuff, but I think how you approach a problem in general is like the basic thing, but it's also like the most hard thing because I don't think a lot of people really are aware of how they approach problems. They just like go right into it and to try to answer the problem, but how you answer the problem is really helpful too. So just like understanding what is needed from the problem, I think is really helpful, nuts and bolts. And then like, is it worth like optimizing? Like how much do you want to optimize for space or time? Just understanding before you get into the problem, what the problem requires. Yeah.
All right, I like that. And if you have questions that you want to send in for me to ask Min, please feel free to keep sending them in the chat. DM me if you have a question that you'd like me to raise and want to be kept anonymous. We have a little under 25 minutes left before the session ends today. It always goes very quickly, so ask your questions before time runs out. All right, let's talk more about boot camps. Obviously, you found yours. You went through GA. Are there any other boot camps that you would recommend, or do you know of any that offer scholarships?
Unfortunately, I don't know any that offers scholarships. I honestly just looked up like top 10 boot camps and then and then looked at all those lists and then looked up after that like the recurring boot camps, looked into those and kind of just Googled everything. I'm sorry, that's kind of a bad answer, but
No,
yeah,
honestly, I love these answers though. I love it when people are like, I don't know, I just Googled, because like truly, y'all, you can learn so much stuff from the internet. And really like there's a ton of information there, but you do have to sort through it. So I think I think it's helpful when people say stuff like, well, I just Googled and kept Googling, because that's what a lot of us do.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
additionally, like after that, like reaching out to those boot camps, I think they're more than happy to talk, right? Because you're like a prospective, customer. So
Yeah.
they're more than happy to talk, like just Googling all of those and then like maybe getting in touch with one of them and then maybe even getting in touch with someone who's already in it is even more helpful. I think one of the things that bootcamp really preaches is like networking. So I think they're more than happy to talk and help about it.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. All right. Can you think to yourself like what your boot camp experience was like? Can you share with us some of the pros and cons, when you were trying to figure out, if the boot camp was going to be the thing that got you where you wanted to go, what were you thinking of in terms of like the pluses and minuses?
Yeah. But so probably, sorry, like pros and cons during or
Of boot
applying?
camps. Like if you're
Okay.
yeah, so if you're trying to get the education portion of this, done quickly so that way you can move
Right.
on, what are some
Yeah.
of the pros and cons that you weighed when you were making that choice?
I think one of the pros, I was thinking, yeah, again, like before, like this is the first group of software engineers you're going to know in the field, and they can really help you a lot. So I was thinking about how interactive it would be. So one of the pros was that like my class was full time, so everyone was on the Zoom call. I was doing it remotely, obviously because of COVID. And one of the pros was like we interacted with each other for like 6 hours a day. So it was like school again. And those people like kind of became they became like your friends, and like you can rely on them to ask questions and stuff. So that's definitely a pro. Like all these people like are very smart and are very helpful. So that's definitely a pro. And then during it as well, I think one of the biggest pros was having the career what do you call it? Career coaches, where they like we did workshops on like resumes and cover letters, and they talked about the process and doing workshops on all those things, and then talking about like your strategy and taking time. And I think that was definitely the most helpful. The career coaches like put me in touch with the job I have now, and really put forth the part of the application process that is like applying, like not just like you can learn to code, but you still have to like apply, and it's a little bit of a game in itself. So learning that from them was definitely really helpful. A con, I think, well, for me specifically, like it was being held on the East Coast, and I was on the West Coast, so I had to wake up at like 6 a.m. That was pretty rough.
Yeah, I'm not envying you that.
Yeah, it was tiring. Although it did show me how many hours could be in the day, but I haven't done it since. So I've seen the other side. It was great, but it's really hard. What else? A con, I think another con was like just not knowing. There's a certain unease throughout the whole process, right? If like all this is actually working or not. And I don't know if that's really ever answered until like it's done.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that's a con that can be really resolved other than I don't know, going through it, I guess.
Okay. If y'all have been considering boot camps and there's a pro or a con or something that you have been weighing, please feel free to put it in the chat here. Maybe other people have also been thinking along these lines. Maybe they can give you advice on how they saw it a different way. That's honestly one of my favorite parts about these chats is that we get to learn not only from our speaker, but also from each other. So please feel free, y'all. If your lived experience has been different than what we're talking about here, we want to know, let us know what your experience has been like as well. Rita had asked a really good question in the chat here. Rita wanted to know, as far as you have seen, do you think that there is an age limit or an age cutoff within tech? Rita has shared that they're 60. Rita, I can personally tell you, you are not the oldest person I have talked to that is considering a change into tech. I think the oldest one that I've ever spoken with was 85. That woman would not quit. That woman would not quit. I'm telling you, that it's one of those people like with like a brain that just will not shut off. And so she's like, okay, sweet, I guess I'll do this now. Like, really? Yeah, when I tell you I get to be impressed and just mind boggled by people every day of the week because of what I do for a living, it's true. It's amazing. But yeah, like, okay, so what have you seen? Do you see a big cutoff in the age range as far as the rooms you've been in?
No. No, yeah. I mean, yeah, I had some people in my cohort that was a little older. I think maybe 50, maybe 60. I think 50s, but they were actually the first ones to land a job. If anything, they were put in a bit of a box that like when they were applying to software engineering roles, they were asked if they want to be managers instead. But they were like, no, I want to be like a software engineer. I want to write code. I don't want to, be managerial. So they might be expecting different things from you, but I think the switch into tech in general is definitely possible still.
Yeah, I like that. And y'all, if you've experienced something different, let us know. Because obviously, we want to see the world be a perfect place. We know that it's not everywhere. But yeah, I think these are great questions, y'all. So please keep these coming. Okay, so let's talk about So you did not work full-time while you were in boot camp. But obviously it is not unheard of for people to try and do a full-time job 40 hours a week with a coding boot camp. From what you experienced, do you think that that balance would be possible, even though you did not have to do it while you were in this process?
I didn't do it, but in my last rotation, I worked with two people that did do it, and they did describe how hard it was. With my experience through the full time, I don't know if I could possibly do it. It seemed like a lot of work, especially also I had already a bit of a background in coding and tech, and that helped me a lot. But I still felt like I had a lot of work to do. So on top of doing the work and having to learn how to do it well, honestly, I do think it's really hard. So I don't know if I could do that personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, my last two coworkers did do that, and they said yeah, it was really hard and really tiring. But I think one of them their wife did the switch, and then he saw her pay bump triple, and he was like, it's worth it. Whatever I'm doing right now, it's worth it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It is. It's going to be, everything's a trade-off, right? So it's going to be depending on whether or not you can take that trade-off for what you think the payoff is going to be.
Yeah.
My husband goes to school full time, he works full time, and he's in finishing off his associate's degree right now, and that is a lot. And if you had told me 3 years ago that this was what we were going to be doing for the next 3 to 5, I probably would have been fine and not really believed you. But it's also the way I'm seeing it change our lives and change the balance in his life. We're also weighing that against the fact that there's only another year left in his program. So I think that's a really good thing to think of is, the amount of stress or the amount of extra work that's going to put on you. Is it possible for you to do, or are there going to have to be changes to your lifestyle? And if so, what changes? I think that's a really big thing to start trying to think on. Mike has asked a really good question in the chat, saying that you've mostly hit on this, but what has the atmosphere been like for a person making a career pivot? Are you expected to know everything off the bat, or are people open to helping and allowing you to grow? Would you like to take this? You started saying something earlier I thought was really interesting about wanting a learning environment.
Yeah, I think I've gotten really lucky with this and been, again, in a privileged position in this rotation program that people know that I'm coming in for a set amount of time, that I'm not a full-time exactly. So I wouldn't say they exactly treat me like an intern, but they know that the time I have is limited and that I may be not an expert in the tech stack that they have in. So with that in mind, I think they give me a little bit of a easier run up, and then also are very welcoming and very helpful in learning everything, because they know that I don't have that start. I feel like if I was doing a full-time job, they would have different expectations, because you get hired to do that job, right? But for me, it's been really helpful being in this program because being in that kind of put in that role of someone who's still learning. But I have seen some other of my coworkers, also my friends, that you can kind of generally fight for that opportunity to learn, right? Asking for projects that you actually want to work on, and something that may be new, maybe just putting a twist on it. I could see this being helpful for the team. Let me see if how it could be. If you put it like that, I feel it's easier for them to say yes, instead of just saying I just don't want to do what I'm doing now and want to just learn something else. But I think, yeah, it's definitely possible to find an atmosphere like that. I think it's really important in the interviewing process to vet that, talk to everyone as much as you can, and try to get the most natural, workday kind of story out of that. Because I think they know they're in an interview too, so they want to put on a bit of a nice face. But yeah, just trying to get a feel for it in a full-time role as best as you can through that interviewing process.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. We do want to, we keep talking in these chats about the importance of interviewing is not just the company interviewing you, it's you interviewing the company or the program, right, or the boot camp or whatever it is you're researching. And so, learning as much as you can, and not just paying attention to the answers, but how is the company or how is the org giving you those answers? Are they excited that you asked about support for such and such because, hey, we have a great support role for working parents? Or are they saying, we really would rather you didn't ask that question? You just kind of try and pick up on the attitude you're getting back from it.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay. So let's talk about getting that first role. Do you think that it's possible to land a job with no experience? Yes or no? And then we'll go from there, I guess.
Well, generally, yeah, because that was me. I didn't have any experience, on paper, in a technical role at all. So, yeah, starting out, I think yes.
Okay. Now, once you were going through boot camp, what were some ways that you could gain experience post boot camp? Things that you've seen work for you or for other people in your cohort, to get that experience that a lot of job descriptions like mandate before you can get hired.
Gotcha. Yeah. That experience is hard. I think most of my experience after that came from working with the people that I met in my cohort. We did some projects, and then we also actually did a lot of interview prep, and that had to do with a lot of doing coding problems in front of each other. So I think that was the best experience post. But then also just doing individual projects. Like I wrote a couple portfolio websites. That was good experience. Because the bootcamp taught me like React and Mongo backend and stuff like that, and doing the personal projects, and then also putting out on some platform that people can see was a good experience too. Because people just like kind of looking to see if you can code. So if you do those projects, obviously you can.
I like that idea. I've talked to people that have talked about going to their favorite nonprofit, something that's in an area that they're passionate about. We had one woman that talked about how she volunteered doing the website for not the Humane Society, but like a dog shelter in her area. We talked to other people who said that they've volunteered with youth organizations, or they've reached out to like teach some of the things that they know to kids in their area. Have you seen people do projects like this where it is strictly unpaid, but it's a bit of a labor of love? Have you seen that like get any traction for people?
I'm not sure if I've seen it for people that like have come out of boot camp for that experience. I've definitely seen it from people that are already coding and just want to kind of like donate their time and code. I've seen that for sure. Yeah.
Well, honestly, this is why I asked this, is like I hear stuff from like one set of speakers and it'll ramble around in my head, and then I want to talk to other people because we all have different experiences. So stuff that Min has seen might not be something that a previous guest has seen. So thank you so much for tackling all of my bizarre one-off questions here.
No, they're great questions. Yeah, I'm interested in learning about those too. So
all right, so let's talk a little bit about what you did during the process. What do you think that you were able to do to make yourself stand out as an applicant, during the interview process? Do you think there were certain things that you got to highlight that made you more marketable?
I'm actually, I've never really been in the hiring position, but I think having a bit of a more interesting background definitely helped. So like the career switch was kind of a positive because they want people to have a different point of view than they already do, right? Because they're maybe trying to add more insights into their team. So I think putting on my resume that I did like comedy improv in college actually helped. That was brought up in one of my interviews. Actually, the interview for this job I have right now. So they were like, okay, well, at least you're not like the software engineer that like sits in the corner and just codes by himself kind of thing. So I was like, okay, yeah, I guess that's good. I didn't really say that. He kind of made that idea up for himself. But yeah, kind of putting those unique things in there definitely helped. I think that helped. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Meg. I think you're muted.
That's what I get, y'all. I do this for a living 5 days a week, and I still forget my mute button. No, it makes a ton of sense because when you are looking at when you're an applicant, you're looking at these roles. It can be really easy to kind of focus on what sets you apart from the rest of the pool, not in a good way. Because I feel like as people, a lot of our psychology is geared to see differences and think, oh God, what's the problem? And I think that if you do think of it in terms of being a culture add and you are filling a gap that they don't have represented in their team, then it gets a lot easier to pick out what's different about you, because then you get to see it as a plus, as opposed to trying to find a fault or find something that doesn't fit. So yeah, I think that that's amazing. I mean, like I'm 90% sure I got into law school because I had art history as my undergrad. So truly,
really
y'all,
cool.
like whatever those weird things are in your background, bring them out, because you don't know, it might be helpful. Maybe the next project you're going to be working on is going to have something to do with wastewater treatment. You don't know. It could be. Oh, all right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about imposter syndrome. Is imposter syndrome something that affects you, or are you generally not, it's just not really in your wheelhouse?
I think with my first rotation, it definitely like came in. I think also not really realizing that I was put in a place where I wouldn't know anything anyways, like put it in this
That's hard
rotation program.
though.
Yeah. No, it's definitely
Seriously.
tough. So
Well,
yeah.
I
Sorry, go
can't
ahead.
tell you like how many times in the last 3 weeks alone, like my husband's on like, years and years and years of school. And I'm still like, you're not supposed to know this. It's the second week of classes.
Yeah.
Like, I like that. I like that you are able to kind of embrace what you don't know, because it shows what you do. It shows that you want to learn. It shows that you have that kind of brain that is flexible and wants new information. I think that's wonderful here. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely, definitely, put in a place that did I know anything, definitely the imposter syndrome came up, and I was like constantly apologizing that I was so slow on things, but they're like, it's okay. Like we kind of get it. So that was really nice. Yeah, I don't know if I really dealt with it. I think just being in that situation, or not in that situation, being in a software engineering field for so long, or for long enough, at least, just like I don't know. It just like faded away eventually. Just like knowing that like, oh yeah, okay, I'm here to learn. If they wanted to hire someone that could actually do the work really fast, they would have done that, right? And so,
That's a good point.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's there, but also like being a software engineer, part of it, it's like you're always learning. There's always something you don't know. There's always like a new technology and stuff too. So
Yeah,
it's easy to
that's a good point. I mean, this is
yeah,
truly a field where continuing education is not, it's the norm. It's not the exception.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Found it, it's easy to reason to yourself why you don't belong, but I figured like if that was so easy, like you should also find reasons that are so easy that you do belong to. So
Yeah, of course. And y'all, if y'all are still hanging in here with us, please let us know in the chat thread if you have also experienced imposter syndrome, even if it's not in your career pivot. Honestly, I think a lot of us have, but it never hurts to share that with people. Okay, let's see. We've got about 6 minutes left. I want to try and make sure we get to as many questions as possible. Blah, 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 stand out. Oh, let's talk a little bit about tech interviews. One person had written in asking if tech interviews are getting extremely difficult recently. I applied for a software engineer role, but got asked a data science question. So when it comes to, comes to interview testing, what have you seen in the time that you were doing it?
yeah, I think I've seen the whole gambit. I think there were some interviews that were really easy and then some that were really hard. I think in that specific role, it seems like maybe the team and the HR didn't talk or something, because if you're applying for software engineering role, you get a software engineering question. But yeah, I think you can find anything. You can find different interview experiences even within the same company because of the teams. Maybe they're looking for like a more senior position than the listing really says. So it's not really helpful to say, but like I think you can find all of it. You can find definitely harder ones and definitely find easier ones depending on who's proctoring the interview.
Yeah. Also, definitely a good thing to ask your recruiter, y'all. Ask them if they have any tips for you, because like it's not going to hurt. The worst thing they can say is no. Like any information that they have to provide for you will be more information than you had before. So it never hurts. Just be like, hey, do you have any tips for the interview quiz or interview testing? Blah blah. What should I brush up on? I like that. Tina responded to you about the imposter syndrome, saying, definitely feel imposter syndrome. I'm almost finished with my boot camp, but I feel it more now than ever as I'm getting ready to apply for jobs. I don't think this is uncommon. I think it makes sense, right? You get to, you're approaching the end of school and you're like, great, I know all the things. Oh, wait, they're going to expect me to know all the things. Did you experience this as well? Did it ramp up for you the closer you got to the end?
I definitely think it got realer the closer I got to it. And then once I was in it, it just hit like fully. I think once I was in it, it was the worst. But like, I think, just time helped with that. Just like listening to the stats that like, I don't know, but I'm in a position to learn and, yeah, you know.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, now we do have Elias on the line today, who's joining us from GA, from General Assembly. And Elias, I wanted to pull you up on stage because we did get a really good question. This person had wanted to talk about, with the current job market right now, do you think hiring will go back to normal or will get worse? So Elias, I wanted to pull you in, obviously, because you have been in the field for a while. What do you think we're going to see on this?
Yeah, thanks. And it's a tough question, but I want to share with you guys. Just so you know, I work at GA. I built partnerships like this with Partify to bring you awesome stories like Min and other alumni that you can talk to. So thanks for attending today. And on what's happening right now with the jobs market, it's kind of like a shift because yes, there's a lot of layouts, a lot of people being let go from mostly seniority or people have been with the company for a long time. And with junior entry-level jobs, we're seeing two things. They're not getting as much, it's not as challenging to get into, and that not only the big tech companies are tech. We have a placement team that talks to companies about their tech needs. And Home Depot, Walmart, the restaurant chain in your hometown, a paper mill, they need a car manufacturer. The other day I heard, they need tech jobs. They need people that can do data analytics, that can understand the customer, UX design. They obviously need software engineers. And so it's kind of a shift. Yes, it is tougher, but there are ways to get around it. And our solution is like expand beyond traditional tech and focus on entry level. That's not as competitive. I hope that helps. And thank you very much. Let's get back to Ming and Meg.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Elias. All right. In the last 2 minutes that we have here, hold on there we go. In the last 2 minutes we have, I do want to get to one last question here. Min, what is one thing that you wish you had known before you made your career pivot?
It's a good question. It's a little hard to remember where I was.
Right? No,
yeah.
I was talking with a friend about this the other day and I was like, oh yeah, blah, blah. I remember back in 2020. And she was like, no, it was so silly. I'm like, no, we were scared pantsless. Of course. Like, it's hard to put your mind back in that box.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what was the big question you were asking yourself when you started?
I don't know. I think I went into the process kind of knowing that I may or may not have answers sooner than later. So okay. I kind of went in not with expectations, but like the confidence that like I think this is going to be okay. I just don't know when it'll be okay, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So honestly, I don't really know if I had anything to say. Yeah, I mean, I took like many months to plan it all out and like make sure I was mentally like ready to go through the anguish of like being rejected from interviews or like how hard it's gonna all be and all that. So like I think that preparation really put me in line to believe in myself and make sure that whatever happens, like at least I know I'm gonna put my best foot forward and it'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, and it probably helps build up, like you said, that resiliency, but like knowing certain things about yourself make it easier to stand like a lack of knowledge or mystery in other areas. At least that's how it feels for me. So yeah, I mean, that makes a ton of sense that, you know, taking back a step back to realize like, can I really accomplish this? What is it really going to look like? Do I really want to put myself through this? I think that's very important, you know. Yeah. Good thing to take stock of ahead of time and not just when you're in the middle of the weeds and everything's awful. So yeah, I like that. All right, Min, this brings our time to a close, but I just want to say huge thanks. It has been wonderful to get to know you for the last hour. And I really, really hope we'll get to do this again soon.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Thanks for having me on. I hope I was helpful to some, if not all of you, but hopefully the answers are good. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Heck yes. All right, y'all. I'm sending a link in the chat thread here. So this is a link where you can go into to set up a call with GA admissions. That'll let them know that you're coming to them from Power to Fly. So if you're interested, absolutely take a look at that link that I just shared. We've also got some great programming coming up with Power to Fly this week and into next week. And then don't forget our March summit is happening in just a few short weeks here, y'all. So I hope that if this was your first Power to Fly event, it will not be your last. If you are one of our frequent flyers and we see you all the time, thank you so much. I always enjoy seeing friendly faces, display names, avatars, all that good stuff. And cannot wait to see y'all again on an event in the future. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.